from an Airstream somewhere in Tornado Alley, bringing you the people, places, and stories from the Panhandle to the Red River. This is your Only in Oklahoma show.
And welcome to the show. Today we have an interview about the greatest party ever hatched. And after the break, don't lay that trash on Oklahoma. When's the last time you heard that one? I'm Brett.
And I am Harley.
So we finally got to tie up some loose ends. You know, we've been doing being pulled from one end of the state to the other by pulled pork.
Yeah.
And we finally got to commit to something that didn't have to do with dry rub or being crucified on the cross over smoking meat techniques.
You say that, but I do recall some Korean barbecue.
And some Detroit style pizza and some, I mean to tell you, and we'll get to that. We'll get to more of that because there's a video incoming on that, but we got to hang out. It was a quick and dirty trip to Medicine Park and got to spend some time at Inhabit, which is super cool.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be as interesting as it is.
It was fruitful. We did a lot in a very small area.
Yeah, there's a lot to do
right there
in and around Medicine Park, but Inhabit it's got it going on.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. And we'll talk a little. We even did some stuff. We managed to break away from Medicine Park for a little bit to do a little bit of a spooky hiking adventure before it turned to 120 degrees, which by the way, it was the other night. It was 6-something in the evening, 6:24 in the evening. Oddly specific because I remember looking at the thermometer in my car. 106 degrees. People are like, you got to be careful out there at Parallel Forest and Wichita Mountain. You know, rattlesnake this, rattlesnake. I guarantee I was literally thinking this. I was like, I bet if I'm a rattlesnake right now, I'm under a rock.
Yeah, it's a little warm, a little much.
It's a little, and it gets there quick.
Yeah, we were hiking around down there, and I found a low spot where the humidity must have been like 10,000%.
You know, and we did, we posted a video, or at least I posted a video of me being legitimately creeped out. And if you haven't seen it, you probably will eventually, but somebody was commenting, yeah, there's a place down there where there's a nice little creek bottom and it's very picturesque. And I think the creek bottom is where you told me that it was 120% humidity.
Yeah, it was the creek bottom. I don't know. There wasn't water running in it. So yeah. I don't know if there was another creek bottom. But yeah, when I got down into the creek bottom, just the foliage holding the humidity in.
Oh, yeah. Brutal.
And the sun baking everything over top.
And the trees dampening the sound of my screams. And you know, they say, what was the motto? Was it the first or the second, or aliens in space, nobody can hear you scream? Well, in the Parallel Forest, nobody can receive your phone calls and they can't hear you screaming, where you guys at? Because I lost cell phone signal.
Yeah, there's no cell phone signal.
But the minute you get to the parking lot, 5 bars.
Yeah.
It goes from SOS to SOL, and then it's AOL because you can't, but you get back to the parking lot and but the problem with going back to the parking lot is that was the source
of the noises,
of the noise. And
so just to give everybody a little inside peek.
Yeah.
We split up.
Bad idea. We did the Scooby-Doo thing.
You were yelling for us.
Yes.
And there was a horn honking.
Yes.
We had no idea.
I mean, he laid on that thing.
Didn't hear a peep.
When in the video, because I'm sure there were some people going, oh, okay, all right, guys. But I'm literally going, yeah, I'm here with Harley and Amber, and they took off. The horn happened. The guy that we saw when we pulled up, I made a handful of jokes about maybe this guy I bet he's got 3 names like Paul William Chapman. You know what I mean? Which is anytime anybody addresses you, the only person allowed to address you by your first, middle, and last name is your mom.
Yeah.
If the cops do it, you've killed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
He looked like a guy.
You have trophies.
You've got trophies.
Yeah.
And part of them is in a jar in the fridge. You've got another part in the freezer in the garage. and you've probably got a necklace made out of some of them. This guy had 3 names.
He did for sure. And there's more coming, so we'll just leave it at that.
That's all we're going to say.
But while we were in Medicine Park, saw a bunch of wildlife.
Yeah.
A family of raccoons, the biggest armadillo I've ever seen.
I feel like you got your money's worth.
So here's the thing.
And you went to bed before me.
Here's the thing. I don't know why, but nature comes to me.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't matter. There have been times where I walk out in my front yard.
Dude, you said that literally. I'm looking out the window. No joke. You've got a watering trough for your dog.
Mm-hmm.
The minute you said nature, I'm not kidding.
A bird landed on it.
I hate you. How did you know that?
Because I do it all the time. But literally, I've walked out my front door before in a suburban neighborhood to a half a dozen ducks chilling out in my front yard.
Short of having 7 dwarfs whistling while they work as they walk by, you know who St. Francis is, right?
Yeah.
The patron saint of animals. You're
related?
You're related.
I think so.
I think so, too. You're the Freemason, whatever the Freemason version of St. Francis is.
Yeah, I don't know why. But whenever I go somewhere, I always see the coolest animals.
Well, speaking of cool animals, did you know? Well, you did because you prepped the show. A southern bald eagle? I thought they were all, I thought there was one bald eagle, honestly.
So, from my understanding, they are the same species.
They're just little.
The ones, the Canadian version, are bigger.
Of course they are, eh?
So, I think they just get a better diet up there. But when I heard Southern Bald Eagle, I instantaneously gave it like a Southern accent.
Like, what? I say, what? This here's America, boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking like, I saw a t-shirt, reminds me of a t-shirt I saw around the 4th of July. Somebody had a t-shirt. It's a cool t-shirt, but it's a bald eagle, a really well rendered bald eagle with like a realistic mullet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I picture the bald eagle having it's being like business in the front, party in the back, baby.
Or because bald eagles are kind of cool. I'm thinking like a Matthew McConaughey kind of vibe.
All right. I'm just flying, FLIYN. That's a terrible McConaughey, but it doesn't have to be good because he's from Texas. Well, coming up August 23rd, we've got Brews and Bald Eagles. That's right. It's the Wild Brew 25 coming up at the Arbus Convention Center in Tulsa. Well, here to give us a clue on the brew, it's Dr. Chad Ellis. Chad, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Great to be here.
So, Chad, can you tell us a little bit about the Sutton Center? We'll just start there.
So the Sutton Center is a nonprofit, and what we focus on is finding cooperative solutions for endangered avian species. We do that through research, education, and communication of our results. Gosh, we've been around for over 40 years. We started the Endangered Species Act, came into fruition in the 70s, and our founding was in 1983, 84, somewhere in there. And we started working on the bald eagle, the southern bald eagle, which in this region it wasn't around. It was regionally extinct. There was a pretty strong effort from some local businessmen as well as regional players to bring it back. And so that was sort of where we first focused our effort, was on getting some eggs and captive breeding and rearing of southern bald eagles and placing them back in the wild. And, times have evolved. We were successful in that effort, and now we're working on 2 other of the most endangered bird species in the U.S., the Masked Bobwhite and Attwater's Prairie-Chicken. And these are really fantastic birds. There's a few hundred of them in the wild, and we have double-digit percentage levels of them in our barns. So we have, a significant amount of the world's population in our facilities. Let's see, what else? In addition to that, we have an education program where we raptors and owls out into classrooms and other sort of public places to teach people about wildlife and birds and some of the work that we do. And then we have a lot of survey programs. So we participate in long-term wildlife surveys so that you can tell over the decades, what are the trends out there? Are we gaining or losing mourning doves? Are we gaining or losing lesser prairie chickens? Things like that. We're very active in the ornithological community and the conservation community.
The Sutton Center is best known, I would say, probably for the work that you've done with the bald eagles. Can you elaborate on how that was a success?
This is a great success story in wildlife conservation. I mentioned the Endangered Species Act, and there's some other laws that brought the eagle to the forefront. And of course, it was imperiled for a number of reasons, but one of them was DDT, and that was a pesticide that bioaccumulated. It made the eggshells very weak, and so then the eggs just couldn't survive to hatch. And so our founder, Steve Sherrod, was a falconer, and he was trained at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. He came out here and started this program, and they went to Florida, I believe, and got some of the original eggs. And of course, this meant, getting permits and permission from the federal government and relocating these eggs to our facility here. And of course, when you're going to rear eggs, we didn't have the adult eagles to sit on them and take care of them. So they actually used chickens that would, they had to select a few chickens that would naturally take to the larger eggs and incubate them and sit on them. And so the initial eagles were hatched from surrogate mother chickens. And then they had to feed them using these puppets, right? Because you didn't want the eagles to get used to being hand-fed by humans. You wanted to leave them with some of their wild instincts. They were fed various different small animals, typically, like any other pet operation, right?
Right.
And they used a puppet to do that. And so some of the initial releases occurred, maybe in the mid-1980s. Most of the eagles that you can find in the region today are descended from those. I think now we have over 300 nesting pairs in Oklahoma. And we continue to survey that through, it's called our BEST program, the Bald Eagle Survey Team. It's a group of dedicated volunteers that goes out and checks on the nests.
So I have probably a handful of friends that have this chat group or text group. All they did was watch the Big Bear Eagle Watch a few months ago, and I was constantly getting updates on those. Is that something? Is there eagle watching with southern bald eagles as well, or? I'd like to have something a little bit closer to home.
I think the Big Bear Eagle Watch, that's an internet camera that's pointed at an eagle nest out in California. Right?
Yeah. Which is pretty cool to watch.
So we have one of those, and it's actually right down the hill from our facility. But back in the spring when we had all of our storms, we were watching some of the baby chicks in the nest. We had an eagle pair sit in the nest, and there were 3 eggs, and I think 2 were viable chicks. And then we had a lightning strike. We can't get in there to fix the camera while the eagles are in the nest. So we've got to wait till. But the objective is to get that thing back up and running. Of course, it's always a gamble because the eagles might take a year off from that nest in 2026. We just don't know. But yes, we do have one of those devices on our system.
I'm curious. This seems like something that would really be a very specific interest. How did you get involved? What is your interest in the project?
So I am a scientist in the oil and gas business for 10 years in the research departments here in Bartlesville. There was some opportunity to get outside of the fence line with a lot of the remote and entrepreneurial work that came out during the era of COVID. And, I kind of found that remote work wasn't really all that I thought it might end up being. And so I wanted something in person again. And this opportunity came up to work with a really dedicated group of people on, it's still science, but it's field biology and conservation biology. So it's a very different field for me. But I've always loved the outdoors, and I've learned a whole lot from some very, very passionate people. So that's how I got involved.
So how does the Sutton Center contribute to cooperative conservation solutions for birds in their natural habitat?
So I think I'll give our two focus creatures the podium right now. Attwater's Prairie-Chicken. There are three species of prairie-chicken: the greater, which is sort of in the northern plains; the lesser, which is like out in western Oklahoma and a little bit in the panhandle of Texas; and then the Attwaters. And the Attwaters' traditional habitat is down on the coastal bend of Texas. And so we have partners with the Fish and Wildlife Service. They run a refuge down there, the Attwater's Prairie-Chicken National Wildlife Refuge. We work with them to implement the recovery plan. And the recovery plan is a sort of strategy that the Fish and Wildlife Service and some other stakeholders puts together to basically get the species off the list. There's a lot of sort of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think there's a lot of dedicated folks on that team, but you have to deal with things that maybe you didn't expect. Like there are invasive species in South Texas that weren't there 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so how does that affect, the viability of the species out in the field? These are things that you got to learn on the fly and sort of adapt. And so we help find cooperative solutions there by having experts in the field. We have a breeding center that's kind of outside of that range. And what that does is it hedges the portfolio, you might say, on not hatching all your eggs in one basket, right? Because if there's a disease outbreak down there that affects some of the breeding facilities down there, we might be outside of the range of that. And we've seen that a little bit. And so that's one species and one way that we participate in cooperative solutions. And in our partnership with the Fish and Wildlife Service for the Masked Bobwhite is very similar. Is a different wildlife refuge out in southwest Arizona, the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge. And there's another dedicated group of folks there, another recovery plan for that species. And again, we're working with them to raise the species here and transfer them there. We're doing what we can to sort of imbue wild behaviors in these birds, right? Because it's a little different than like a poultry operation where you just have a bunch of birds running around, sort of growing for production. We need these birds to know that they have to chase their food and that they have to run away from a dog and things like that. And so you're kind of working on bird developmental psychology in a way. So you got to talk to the people who are out in the field, and that's where our partners come in. And that's another example of a cooperative effort, I guess.
Bouncing back to the southern bald eagle for just a second, Dr. Ellis, you had said that basically the chickens did the brunt of the heavy lifting on repopulating the eagle environment. Is that a similar situation with the prairie chickens and the masked bobwhite?
With the masked bobwhites, I don't believe that was the situation. I believe we had some wild birds to help there. But with the Attwater's prairie chickens, we sort of dialed that facility in. This was about 10 years ago. We dialed that in using some greater prairie chickens. So that was a non-endangered species, related enough in size and temperament and behavior that we could sort of understand the sandbox we were playing in. And so they kind of developed some of the initial incubation strategies and chick rearing strategies by watching that species in a captive way. And then we obtained eggs of the Attwater's prairie chickens, and the greater prairie chicken adults were the ones that incubated those eggs for the first few captive breeding rounds.
I was just hoping that there was a chicken on staff that has been promoted because of all the work that it's done. So I apologize.
Well, we do keep some in the education barn just so that we can talk about the critical role that they played. They're not the original chickens at this point, but we do keep some around. Yeah.
I was kind of leaning into maybe that's where you see the extra large brown eggs in the grocery store, that they are actually, in fact, a hybrid of a chicken and a bald eagle with a mullet. That's when I see a southern bald eagle in my mind, I see the true American hero with the Joe Dirt, the Kentucky mud flat back there. You know what I mean? just saying, send it, or something. I mean, it just, go ahead. When Harley said to me, yeah, we're going to be talking about Southern bald eagles, I said, wait a second. I thought there was only one. What? I learned something new every day.
There's the Southern and there's the Northern, and the Northern bald eagles got maybe 10 more inches on wingspan. They're closely related, but that's the biggest difference.
Hey man, it's not the size of the fight in the bald eagle; it's the size of the bald eagle in the fight. Is that what? I can't remember.
Something like that.
Something like that.
But one of our original heavy hitting supporters was Don Henley of the Eagles.
Really?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That makes. I mean, come on, win in Rome, right?
Yeah. and actually in the silent auction at Wild Brew this year, we have one of his letters, one of his pieces of correspondence supporting us early on.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we've got it framed up. It's signed by him. It's a really neat slice of both modern rock and roll, but also the Sutton Center history. So it's a pretty cool piece.
Well, speaking of silent auctions and events coming up, you've got the Wild Brew event coming up on August 23rd. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, that's right. It's in Tulsa. It's at the Arvest Community Center. It's tons of fun. It's been going on. It's, I think, the longest restaurant and brewery event in the region, I think. We've got at least 30 restaurants and breweries each signed up this year. So, they're going to come with their best samples and platters. And there's about 2,000 people that come. It's a great event for the afternoon. It's indoors. So it's a fun way to stay cool, but also, be in a big space and see a lot of people and have a lot of fun. And yeah, we've got a silent auction. There's an online auction. And it's our biggest fundraiser. And so, it's an important event for us, both in communicating who we are and what we do, but also in raising money. So,
and that's been going on for 26 years now? Is this the 26th annual? Did I get that right?
26, 27, something like that. Yeah, it's been going on for a while. We've got a fantastic committee down in Tulsa that sort of helps organize this thing.
So can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek at what type of silent auction items may be in the mix? I want to know if my budget, I'm trying to find some things within my podcaster's budget. I want to help, but I also want to kind of help myself too.
Yeah. So, I think there's going to be some nice high end items. Sometimes you see things like a weekend at somebody's, timeshare or a trip. We've got a few travel packages, to Europe and things like that. Very nicely arranged.
Whoa.
But there's some, closer to home items. There's, some people
Chad,
have donated some.
I was hoping like gift cards to Quick Trip. You may not watch some of our videos, but I oftentimes rank hot dogs between Quick Trip and On Cue. So I was really kind of hoping not high end, but somewhere middle of the pack. So now I know what my budget is now. That's
well, and those, those high end items are, they'd be out of reach for a lot of people.
Probably.
Including me, but we're hopeful that they're attractive to a lot of folks who come. And then we've got other things. There's going to be some bird aficionado statues and paintings and jewelry and things like that. I mentioned the Don Henley letter that I have no idea what that's going to go for.
I'm hoping $1 million.
So do I. I hope it's a really unique fit for somebody. It's cool, but I just don't know.
I was trying to think of an Eagles song pun that I could use. That's why I got quiet. Here's the thing. Many years ago when eBay started, when I first dabbled in eBay, I bought an Xbox 360. Yes, I'm a grown child. I was even then. I bought a $400 Xbox for $100 on eBay with everything with it and worked like a charm. I'm hoping to get a trip to Europe for about $200.
I don't know if you can pull that one off.
How silent is the auction? We're going to find out.
Yeah, you should definitely come and maybe bring an extra piece of paper and just sort of put it over the sign up sheet or something.
Right.
I think it's digital, but
I know how
Are you
raffles
looking
work.
for a discount?
Well, no, I know how raffles work sometimes. It's like sometimes you float to the top depending on who you know at the top. I don't know. We'll have to see.
I think our systems are robust enough that we're going to be true to the value of what somebody puts on the line, but you never know.
So, Dr. Ellis, are there any highlights that you can share as far as the Wild Brew event? Maybe some restaurants or local breweries?
I would like to specifically call out one brewery there in Tulsa that's really been a strong supporter this year, called New Story Brewery. And what they're doing for us is they're brewing 2 beers just for this event. And they're, I believe one is an American lager and one is a Mexican lager. And they are in support of our 2 species, one, the Attwater's Prairie-Chicken, and the other, the Masked Bobwhite. And so we've got our kickoff party, our launch party is going to happen on the 9th at New Story Brewing. I believe that's 2 to 4 that afternoon. So we're going to be there sort of with a mini Wild Brew presence at that brewery. So if anybody wants to come to that and sort of see what that brewery is about and what the event is about, be more than welcome to have you there. I think we're going to have tickets on sale and some other sort of paraphernalia for the organization as well.
Where is the best place for all things Wild Brew, all things Southern Bald Eagle? Tell us more.
Well, let's see. For Wild Brew, you got to check out the website. There's general admission tickets there. There's also patron packages, so you can get in, an hour early, sort of ahead of the crowd, and have access to a little bit of a special area, a little more elbow room. And then if you're a restaurant and you'd like to come to this event, you can sign up on that page. We're still taking vendors for that. And if you're a brewery, you can sign up there on that webpage. And that's wildbrew.org. And then if you'd like to volunteer for event day, you can do that through the webpage as well. We're, always looking for people who are interested in helping out. There's a lot of things to move and set up and arrange and organize. So it's a nice way to participate in helping the Sutton Center that way. We are physically located closer to Bartlesville, so it's another nice volunteer opportunity if you're down there in Tulsa. In terms of learning more about the Sutton Center or seeing our facilities, we're not zoo-like in that we can, take large daily crowds, right? Mm-hmm. But anybody that's interested can give us a ring and find a time to come up and see what we're doing. And I got to tell you, like, when you're in a barn or in an incubation room with a good fraction of the world's population of a species, it's just a moving sort of place to be. And I was working with some of our aviculturalists who are really they're highly trained and they're very passionate. And these little bobwhites are hatching, and they're the size. The eggs are smaller than a golf ball, and, mm-hmm. and some of these chicks, sometimes they come out with a toe that's a little bent or something like that, like you might experience a clubfoot in a human. And so these aviculturalists, I was watching them, and they splint the feet using masking tape. They put a piece of masking tape on the bottom of the foot and on the top, and then they cut little shoes out of it. And after a couple days of that sort of splint, the feet are properly formed. And so the level of care and the level of attention that goes into every single one of these birds is really, it's awesome to see. I wish we were more amenable to large groups of the public, because I think it's a valuable sort of lesson in the challenges that come with conserving a wild species. But if you're interested and want to make the trip, we'd love to show you.
I know I'm the goofball, but immediately when you started telling me about it, I started thinking about the scene in Jurassic Park when they come in and they're watching the little raptors hatch. In 10 years, Chad, when we have you on the show, when we're at the top of the 50 pin place, finally we've made it, and we're talking about conservation of velociraptors because we've figured out how to hatch those. I would love to see eagles be born, but I want the technology. Give me the ability to watch a dinosaur be hatched.
Well, so you're asking a really interesting question, especially because we've heard in the news recently, some mammals have been touted to have been brought back.
We have the technology.
Yeah, and it's more. I'm not an expert in the area, but it's more suitable for mammalian recovery because the gamete cells, right, the sperm and the egg, are quite small.
Yeah.
Whereas with a bird species, you've got this relatively enormous egg, right, shell around it. So you've got to figure out how to deal with that, and it's a harder problem in terms of sort of the artificial recovery methods. There are some ways around it, and there's people working on that. If you look up the concept is like a cryo zoo.
Yeah.
Right. That's kind of a backup plan. We're not really advocates of that approach because we're more, we target more the live species conservation. They've done this some in the plant world too. There's a seed bank. I think it's in Svalbard. I can't say the name of the island. I think it's in Norway somewhere. But it's down in the permafrost, and they've got heritage seeds from all over the world, right? So those approaches are out there, but our focus is on conserving the actual species, figuring out what to do for the habitat, and reintroducing them so that we can get a viable population out there.
What do you think the time span is to, you mentioned viable population. What do you think that timeline is? What's an ideal number to where we're back to kind of where we're sustainable again?
So that is another very good question. You guys are asking all the right stuff.
I never ask the right stuff. I never do. I feel really good about you saying that's a good question. I can't wait for the answer.
Yeah. So I'm going to answer with sort of another example, right?
Okay.
I mean, we've talked a little bit about the southern bald eagle, and that was a success story. That came along with, right, getting DDT out of the environment. So there was an environmental sort of problem and then a solution, right? And along with that, the recovery efforts helped bring the eagle back quickly. Another good example is it's the cackling goose. And this was a goose species up in the Aleutian Islands of Alaska. And basically there were, I believe, a combination of rats and foxes that had gotten on their islands and were just decimating the eggs. And so this was a population that was down to a few hundred birds. The Fish and Wildlife Service got involved, eradicated the rats and foxes. And the cackling goose population is now back up into the 10, 20, 30, 40,000 range. And actually the blue goose is the symbol of the Fish and Wildlife Service, or one of them. And so I think that's kind of where we are in the recovery effort with these two other birds, the Masked Bobwhite and the Prairie-Chicken, is we need to kind of continue to work on solving the bigger problem, solving the habitat and the wildlife viability issues along with these recovery efforts. But kind of without the hand in glove approach, it's going to be a long time before we can bring all that together.
Does your survey work require more volunteers? Is that something that you're trying to drive? I'm kind of curious to what you mean by survey work.
Yeah, so some of the other programs that we have, field biologists are people who know about species, and they go out in the field and make systematic measurements in time and space, observing these target animals. And we have programs that look at grouse out in Wyoming. We've also got, historically, we've had some programs around ptarmigan, which are sort of quail-like species up in the mountains. And then here in Oklahoma, we survey the lesser prairie chicken out near the Panhandle, and that's a 6 to 8 week endeavor. It covers 700 square miles, and we rotate that survey over the course of 5 years to survey a huge amount of acreage. And what we're doing there is we're monitoring long-term trends for these birds to see how they're doing in the environment. And you guys mentioned volunteers and some of the survey work. And one of the biggest efforts that we have is around the breeding bird atlas and the winter bird atlas. And these are decade-long projects where we have a scientist who basically it picks hundreds of points across the state of Oklahoma and has dedicated volunteers that goes to each of those points and sits there for a certain number of hours, observing and hearing birds and recording the different species that they identify. And then that data comes back and gets rolled into this atlas, which is a beautiful book. It's hundreds of pages long. It's got wonderful photography and great data on the presence of those birds scattered around the state. And it's all birds. It's songbirds, it's scissortails, it's owls, it's falcons, And so when you compare these books from one decade to the next, you can see, well, okay, the mourning dove is moving out and the collared dove is moving in, right? And without that intentional effort and that serious group of volunteers, we wouldn't be able to detect those trends. It's like the frog in boiling water, slowly boiling water, right? You wouldn't notice until it's game over, right? It's a wonderful part of what we do, and we're grateful for our volunteers for helping with that as well.
So your volunteers, are these amateur enthusiasts or college students? What type of person signs up for this activity?
All of the above. Many of them are quite well trained birders. Of course, it's a hobby for most people, but some are more serious than that. We've had a group of students, I believe, from the University of Arkansas, come and help us on a number of our bird counts. And there's some great technology out there, which I highly recommend. If you've got a back patio or a quiet place where you like to go for walks, get the Merlin app, Merlin. It's produced from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, and it uses the microphone on your phone to listen to the bird songs around you, and it'll identify the bird species. And this time of year, you got way too many cicadas out sometimes, but in the spring and fall and winter, it can identify 5 or 10 birds at the same time. It's amazing.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
So as far as volunteering goes, is that something that's done through the Sutton Center website as well, or how does somebody get involved with that?
In terms of volunteering for those bird counts and surveys, you can reach out to us on our website. There's a couple administrative emails, or you can look up one of the scientists on there and get in touch with us that way. But we love to engage people on those things, and give us a call or look us up on the website. And I think right around New Year's, there's a really big bird count that we participate in out in the tall grass prairie, which is just north of Pawhuska. We cover, I can't remember what it is. It's a circle of like 15 square miles, something like that. And it's a long day, but it's a good reason to get out and sort of move around after Christmas and get outside. So it's fun for that reason. There's a lot of socialization that comes with these things.
So basically the clearinghouse for any of these activities is going to be suttoncenter.org.
Yeah, that's our website. And you can find contact information on there. And our telephone number is 918-336-7778, and somebody will pick up the phone.
Well, Chad, sounds great. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. I thought we were just going to talk about Brews and bald eagles. I got an education on so many things. I think I'm going to just quit my day job and go into aviary and just watch birds.
I highly recommend it, and we can help you do that anytime you want.
Honestly, I'm going to say shocked at how interesting the Sutton Center is and the Wild Brew event.
I was worried you were going to say shocked at how interesting Dr. Chad was.
His name is Dr. Ellis.
Yeah, but to kids, he's Dr. Chad. Am I right?
He's not a pediatrician.
I know. The kids will still call him Dr. Chad.
Maybe.
Or middle-aged men.
But you're not a kid.
I have children. Okay? I will refer to him as Dr. Ellis.
You call him Dr. Chad the whole time, or Chad.
I called him Chad because I said in the beginning, I asked in the beginning, do you prefer Dr. Chad? He said, Chad, Dr. Ellis. He said, you can even call me Dr. Chad. I went with Chad. I took the middle. I went for the middle.
I still think the hero of this whole story
was the bald eagle.
The chickens. The chickens are the heroes.
The Bobwhites.
The chickens.
The chickens. That's right. That's right. The chickens are the heroes. See, I forgot. I like the name Bobwhite.
The Masked Bobwhite?
The Masked Bobwhite.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Bob Evans. Those potatoes are good. I bet a Bobwhite would go good with Bob Evans, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that. It's about conservation.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Can't believe you even went there.
I didn't mean to. It just came out.
Well, if you want more information on protecting animals from Brett, check out the website suttoncenter.org.
Well, coming up after the break, let's keep Route 66 beautiful, shall we?
It's time for the Oklahoma Deer Conference and Expo, August 16th in Oklahoma City. I'm Todd Craighead, and no matter how long you've deer hunted or your skill level, DeerCon has something for everyone. Learn the tips and skills from subject matter experts to make this deer season your best ever. More than 20 classes to choose from. Register at oklahomahuntersandanglers.org. Brought to you by the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife Conservation and the Oklahoma Hunters and Anglers Association.
Our news story today from Fox 23. Again, we're going to be running into a lot of Fox 23 stories because of Route 66 centennial celebration coming up next year.
The old girl's the mother road's turning 100.
But applications are open for Keep Route 66 Beautiful grants.
Yes, they are. And I think it's good news. You know, I was reading a story because I'm preparing to do a kind of a video update to the Catoosa Blue Well. It's just an example of things that they're doing on Route 66 to kind of beautify, restore, and maintain. The longest let's be honest. Let's give another history lesson. Oklahoma has the longest continuous drivable stretch of Route 66 in the country. So it makes sense.
It does.
To take care of it.
Absolutely. And there are grants available that will provide supplies for projects such as community trash cleanups, painting, tree and flower planting, and hazardous waste drop-offs. They also encourage people to submit their ideas for unique project aimed at making Oklahoma a more beautiful place to live, with up to $5,000 being offered to help applicants fund their projects.
I like it. Like I said, I talked about Becca Black with the ravine. They've got a property up around Stroud that I think is probably encompassed in that restoration project as well for Route 66. So look, 100 years. Will we be talking about I-35 in 100 years? Probably.
We'll be talking about how I-35 is still jacked.
You could make it to where it's spaceship hovercraft only, and there'd be something under construction on I-35 in 100 years. I don't think we're going to be talking about preserving Interstate 35.
No. But I also like the fact that the grants don't just stop at Route 66. As long as you're within 25 miles of Route 66, you can qualify for one of these grants. I think it's a great deal. We'll include a link to the story as well as a link to the grant application in the show notes. But if you've got any ideas, definitely get in there. 100 years.
100 years of Route 66. I said sex. Dang it. Route 66. Route 66. That sounds like we could do our own little thing.
No.
100 years of Route 66 on the OnlyinOKShow podcast.
Well, speaking of the OnlyinOKShow podcast, we have a little bit of feedback.
A little.
In reference to our parallel forest video, Elizabeth Anderson said she spent a lot of her childhood and teen years in that area, and it is haunted, according to Elizabeth.
I think you could have spent more time on the feedback for that thing. There's a lot of similar stories.
Yes, there are a ton of stories in our comment sections.
But we're going back.
We are.
We got the green light from our production staff to go back. Saturday, we're going back. By the time you hear this episode, will we have returned?
Are we? Okay, serious question.
Yeah.
Are we going to split up again?
I don't like it. I don't like it, man.
We'll cover more ground if we split up.
Right. And we'll cover more blood on the ground if we stay together. I don't know, man. we got to find the altar.
That's the plan.
Or the alternate universe.
I'm going to say it's creepy.
Dude.
I don't know if it's haunted, but I will say it's creepy. And I'm really shocked that nobody has tried to up the ante.
No.
Like, I'm shocked that there's not somebody out there playing little whistles at the top of the trees so it makes creepy noises.
Now, there was somebody that said that every time they went out there, they kind of left a little bit of a Blair Witch clue set up, like they did in the Blair Witch where they stacked the sticks and the da-da-da.
Mm-hmm.
There's just things about that area, and not just the parallel forest. We could do a few shows where we're tiptoeing. I mean, I honestly think we need to do the Jed Johnson thing again.
My only issue with the Jed Johnson thing is
you were 38 when we did it last time, and we're almost 50. I can't lay on the ground.
Hate your face.
Listen,
no. The thing that bothers me is for us to be there when they say the spooky stuff happens, we have to break the rules.
We have to break the rules.
And I don't know how comfortable I am with that.
I don't either. As a matter of fact, I'm not comfortable with it at all. We will not be breaking any rules. I want to make this perfectly clear. We will not be showing up at inopportune times. What's wrong? We will not break the law. Everything that we do will be under the light of the sun, not the dark side of the moon.
So I think what we could get away with is walking up right before sunset.
Yeah.
So that we've technically not gotten there at night.
Right.
But it will become night.
On the way down.
On the way down. We could try it. And hopefully a park ranger doesn't tase us.
What happens if something goes...
Or bear spray. Dude, I don't want to get bear sprayed by a park ranger.
You know what? There are so many not untouched, but not really talked about reaches of the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge. Hell, I didn't know how far the mountain range stretched. It goes back there, dude.
Mm-hmm.
There's ghost towns in there.
Yeah.
We got our work cut out for us. We got our work cut out for us for sure. Well, this has been the OnlyinOKShow. I am Brett.
I'm Harley, and we're out of here.
Peace.
We'll just bleep it, make it sound like you said something awful.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome to the show. Today we have damn it. I'm hung up on that. 3, 2, 1.